Hello viewers, Tim Paul here with the Huddle, and I'm with Marek Plota, now Global Gaming Insider contributor. First time on the Huddle. Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Hi Tim, thank you for having me. I'm Marek Plota, I'm a managing partner at RM Legal and Gaming in Poland. We advise foreign operators on licensing, AML, compliance and all gambling related matters for Poland. So in short, we translate regulatory complexity into commercial strategies.
Mm-hmm. From that answer, our viewers might be able to dissect that we're going to talk a little bit about Poland, at least a little bit. Great opportunity for me, if I'm honest, because we often talk about the UK, we often hear a lot about Germany for the wrong reasons, Netherlands, but Poland, in your article for us, you argued that it might be the most sort of undervalued or underrated market in Europe. Talk us through why you think that is.
Yeah, maybe this expression is a little bit provocative.
Sure.
As I trust that global operators are fully aware of the potential of the market, which is 38 million people, and everyone knows that this is a big business. However, what I'm not sure that global operators are aware of is that it's not so difficult to enter the market, that it's quite seamless to acquire the license, that the market is growing 20 to 25% annually, and the channelization rate. This is the critical point where I believe not everyone is aware of. It's 75 to 80% of channelization rate in sports betting, which is subject to licensing. In turn, the channelization rate in casino, iGaming, online casino is 60-70%, but this is not the most interesting part, as iGaming online is subject to the state monopoly. So, for us, convincing people, convincing stakeholders to put the focus on the Polish market is absolutely important, as we want to explain the world that it's worth to enter right now. Because if you don't like the rules, you may enter the market which is already claimed.
Sure. In your magazine, in your article for our magazine recently, you published a kind of a breakdown of a rough breakdown of kind of market share based on certain, I guess, estimates and available data. Could you maybe just walk us through the current landscape for the big players, but also in 2026, who you might, I guess it's a bit of a prediction at this stage, who you see kind of making moves in terms of growth in the right direction?
Yeah, so when the sports betting market opened in 2017, there were two undisputed leaders, which was STS and Fortuna. They used to cover like 80% of the market share, but it has changed since then, with BetClick and Superbet building their position from scratch, and now it is divided between the big four: STS, Fortuna, Superbet, and BetClick, all together covering almost 90% of the market share, and the remaining ones has only 10%. So this will be the battle they will have between those four competitors, and probably the Superbet and BetClick will have an advantage due to mostly product advantages. They have something that other Polish incumbents doesn't have.
You mentioned STS, and for me it was quite interesting. I actually have an Entain branded umbrella at the stand here, but Entain acquired STS a couple of years ago now. The rationale perhaps was sound, and maybe you can tell me a little bit about what might have appealed to Entain for the company. But looking back, that as we know, that merger was the result of a lot of. As a result, there was a lot of discussion, a lot of investor almost pushback, and ultimately CEO Jette Nygaard-Andersen, you could argue it was certainly a factor in her eventual departure. So just maybe if we can go back to why Entain acquired STS at the time. Did it seem like it made sense from your point of view?
I'm not the financial business person to make an assessment of the business strategy of Entain back then when they acquired the STS. However, I can imagine they paid a lot. They imagined that they acquired the entity that owned almost half of the market share. Nowadays, it has changed. STS has 35% according to some reports. So it could be the case that was not so fortunate business decision, especially that I remember that the minority shareholders were protesting and filing some notifications against it. However, maybe it's not only about the STS as a brand, but the long-term strategy for Entain to have a foothold in Poland, and for everyone who wants to be active and meaningful in CEE, Poland is the place to be, and you can't disregard it if you want to cover CEE. So, in the long term, probably it will pay off anyway.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of the latest updates, I know you commented to us about or you wrote a comment about a recent tax development. Can you walk us through that?
Fortunately, the worst case scenario did not happen, and President several weeks ago vetoed the tax on winnings increase bill. So we are now in the same position as we were before. So not so great 12% turnover tax is a fact. And now we are focusing on how the operators will fit in this regulatory landscape, and it's more about how the regulator and the local authorities are pushing payment services providers and big techs to increase the channelization rate for legal license operators in Poland, instead of focusing on the tax development, as we are now ahead of elections in 2 years. So now I wouldn't be so optimistic that something is going to change within these 2 years. But once it happens, everyone who's already licensed will probably benefit.
Now, you kicked that off with an interesting phrase. You said there was not the worst case scenario. I want to maybe shift away from Poland to the UK.
Yeah.
Which when I heard the words worst case scenario, and maybe you did too, immediately I thought of the autumn budget in the UK, which is obviously there's certain interviews this week I'm doing which are all about the UK, but I'm finding that topic is finding its way into every interview because people around the world have, especially in gaming, have reacted to the news. As someone who, working in the Polish market, you may have seen the UK regulator or UK policy as not something to look up to, but it's certainly been a leader, a foremost leader when it comes to regulation. As someone kind of looking in, how do you reflect on?
This is one of my biggest disappointment actually, as we like to use Great Britain, Netherlands, and Denmark as leading examples of how deregulation or licensing within the market is the key factor of the channelization rate increasement. So now we are looking what the figures will be in UK, looking at first, second quarter. And if the channelization rate is going to decrease, then we lose our main example and argument for legislation changes in Poland to remove, to seize the state monopoly for online casino.
Yeah, and that sort of touches on my follow-up question. I was going to be, do you think the policy changes here and certainly the evidence that comes out of it will have a big impact on, not just Poland but other markets around the world? Will they be looking to this and thinking, it's almost a bit of an experiment now with that high of a rate?
Yeah. So, state monopolies are definitely hoping that their policy will give a positive result, and the arguments of state monopolies all over the world is that they want to protect the customers, they want to limit the harm to customers. So if it actually gonna result in channelization rate decrease, they will have the points to keep the state monopoly living, instead of give a green light to the licensing system. So let's look at what the time will tell.
Yeah, it's interesting to see just a very practical implication, maybe several years down the line, somewhere else in the world from a policy change, in the UK.
Exactly, and I could imagine that keeping the state monopoly or keeping the high tax rates is effective, but it needs to be compared with very strong enforcement measures, right? Unless until you are not able, the government is not able to block the black market, to put the pressure on the payment services providers and big techs, the black market will be fueled by such decisions.
So, a final question, an outlook on 2026 in the Polish market, but across Europe. Are there any trends that you're seeing that you're thinking this could be a positive? Anything that you'll single out for growth? Because we were just talking about a massive tax increase, which is not perhaps the most promising topic.
Yeah, so I can imagine that the latest information about the cooperation of the particular regulators within European Union and increased pressure on the payment service provider as well as big techs would be the trend that we will observe, because this is the only chance for the local authorities to prove that it is possible to achieve their fiscal goals in the same time with limiting the harm to customers and pushing back the black market.
Yeah, I think the pressure is going to be on the big payment suppliers, because I hope it's not the case, but I've often thought, almost like I was given the example of pharmaceuticals in the US. Rather than fixing a problem, it may be better business for them to slightly improve a patient bit by bit. And I'm hoping that payments service providers aren't not blocking the black market simply because it generates revenue for them.
Absolutely, this is all about the money.
Yeah. But Marek, thanks very much. Great to have you on the Huddle. I'm sure we'll have you on again, and I look forward to more contributions from you if you have the time for us in the future.
Thank you, team. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.